When I started MMA, I was deployed in Baghdad, Iraq, in 2010, 2011. I had some personal issues going on at home, and I wasn't right in the head. I was having a hard time over there. And I was super stressed out, just thinking about stuff that I couldn't control back home. And then I saw this sign in this gym, and it was MMA practice. Late at night after missions, a group of guys, we had a jiu-jitsu guy, a wrestling guy, and our best friend, YouTube. And we met late at night, and we just beat the crap out of each other. And it was a release for me. It was a time that I wouldn't think about what was going on back home. I wouldn't think about the missions and all the stress I was underneath. I could just think about jiu-jitsu or boxing or wrestling. So it was my escape. When I came home from Iraq, I told myself, I'm gonna fight in one fight. I owe MMA this much. It saved my life over there. You know, a lot of people, they come home, they go to drinking, they go to drugs, very unhealthy activities. I came to MMA. That was my release. So I started fighting. I had one fight as an amateur. I ended up losing, but I fell in love with it. And I said I was just going to try it once, and 25 fights later, here we are. I'm a professional fighter traveling to Canada, and it's just unbelievable. Like, I get paid to punch somebody in the face. Like, that's crazy.
When I was 8, my brother and my mom passed away. Within a couple...
Your brother and your mom?
Yeah, my older brother and my mom. So he would have passed away in September of 2005. Mm-hmm. She passed away in November of 2005. So I was only 8 years old at the time. At that point, my dad was just having a hard time dealing with it. So my brother and I, we moved in with our aunt. And then from that point, I feel like that's like where I had like kind of more of like a real childhood, I'd say. And then my aunt, who I moved in with, actually passed away from cancer. So so at this point I was staying with my uncle, and him and I didn't really get along too well. I was in about, I think, grade 8, and then my dad kind of started coming around again, and we eventually, like, we had to go through the whole process of like supervised visits, everything, you know what I mean? So once we went through that whole process, my brother and I moved it back in with my dad. And my dad, well, through that whole time was like showing me like fights and stuff like that, like getting me into like UFC basically as like a spectator more than anything. But being someone who's into sports and being someone who's competitive too, so I wanted to always try it out. And then I went, basically tried out one kickboxing class, and at this point it was at Matey's. It was the first place I went to. And then so tried one class there, and I was just hooked after that, you know what I mean? I personally, I feel like if I wouldn't have had to go through what I went through at that age, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have appreciated or like been like as tough as I was, even all the way to like the other job that I do, like cutting hair. That was like something I started in high school, you know what I mean? So like these are all things that I picked up at an early age, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, you know? But it was like that confidence, like knowing how well I did in one area, or like how much people respected me, say like if I went to a tournament or something like that, you know what I mean? Like being a young kid who was doing so well, like, oh, people were always talking about me and my brother and stuff like that at such a young age. So it was like, that eventually gave me a lot more confidence to bring into other aspects, like just even the social part of my life.
Andrew and I have known each other for a really long time. We've been training together for about 5 years. Andrew, he is well-rounded. He not only is he really disciplined on his skills, just mentally. He's mentally disciplined. We've cut weight together and we've trained together, so I know the hard work that Andrew puts in and outside of the gym. Cruz's cardio is always great, so he knows how to push the pace, but I see him finishing this fight. I see him going in there, taking the guy down, doing what he does best, and just kind of ground and pound, maybe by a submission or a ref stoppage. I see Cruz finishing this fight.
I'm not really too worried. I know what TJ has as a skill set and as a fighter. TJ can strike, but he's even more dominant on the ground. He's got that Khabib style where, you know, he can be relentless with his, you know, top game, his wrestling, his pressure, you know, and it's like I've battle tested as well, and, you know, like I fought guys that have been there and done that, and I've never felt anyone as strong or as powerful as him on top. So, you know, he is a real threat to people in his weight class and wherever he fights pretty much.